news, there's another contest of a very different, violent kind taking place on the streets of Nepal. Following violent protests that left about 19 dead and over 300 injured yesterday, the Nepalese government has lifted its own order banning internet. But viewers, that hasn't stopped the public from hitting the ground again. These are live pictures from Kathmandu, and what we are hearing now is that there have been a number of attacks that have been taking place against government officials. In fact, we are being told that at least 2 cabinet ministers, their homes have been targeted. People are restive. They're in unforgiving mood. The Oli government, Prime Minister Oli's government, that's the individual. That's what he looks like, the Prime Minister there. His government, which is, let me put it in context for you viewers, a very pro-China government, by the way, wants to put distance between Kathmandu and New Delhi, wants to cozy up to Beijing, is facing the wrath of the public because of allegations of widespread corruption, allegations of dominance which crushes dissent, and worse, in trying to also curb the freedom of expression by policing the internet. And this has brought masses of people out, viewers, as they see their government is not representing their interests. I want to go across to Siddhant. Siddhant, what's the update that you're getting?
Well, that's right, Rahul. 2 of the ministers in the Oli government have submitted their resignation to the Prime Minister. In fact, they both have told us that they have resigned on the grounds of morality, as 19 people have lost their lives. Situation still remains tense. In fact, the curfew is still in place in Kathmandu. In fact, as you rightly said, some of the senior ministers and former prime ministers' residences have also been targeted by the protesters. And what we could understand, Rahul, at this point in time is that protesters are on streets, and with each passing hour, there is a pressure increasing on Prime Minister Oli to resign. But what we are picking from people close to Prime Minister Oli is that he is not ready to resign, and perhaps he's going to continue as the Prime Minister. And till the time he will continue as the Prime Minister, this protest will continue. So yesterday, the ban on social media platforms was revoked, but that had very little impact on the ongoing protests, because protesters have to say that it was not only about the ban on the social media platform, but it also has to do with corruption, with nepotism in the government, rising unemployment, cost of living, etc. So they say there are a lot of issues, and the Oli government has failed them miserably in last couple of years. So the protest is against the government. So right now, situation is tense as far as Kathmandu is concerned. In fact, Indian government has also come up with a statement, Rahul, and the Indian government has, Indian government says in the statement that we hope that all concerned will exercise restraint and address any issue through peaceful means and dialogue. Right. In fact, Indian government also advised Indian nationals in Nepal to exercise caution and adhere to the steps and guidelines issued by the Nepalese authorities. So Indian government is monitoring the situation in Nepal very, very closely. And Rahul, this was in the making from a very long time. In fact, in February, we saw pro-monarchy campaign against the government. In fact, there was a demand for the return of monarchy in Nepal, because people feel that democracy has failed them. And there have been more than 18 governments in last 20-25 years, if I'm not mistaken. So, that is the level of that is one of the reasons for the frustration and the anger of people against the government and the politicians. Also, one of their demands, Rahul, is that now the baton needs to be passed on to the new generation. The new generation of leaders, coming up in Nepal, because these are the old veterans who are running the country, and the young generation feel that they are unable to handle the crisis. They are unable to manage the country. So the baton needs to be passed on to the new generation. So this was in the making, Rahul, from a very long time, and now we're getting to know that 2 ministers have already resigned, and pressure is mounting on Prime Minister Oli to tender his resignation.
But that doesn't seem to be the only demand. I mean, even if Oli does step down, that doesn't really mean, Siddhant, that the government redeems itself in any way, because the accusations are fairly deep and they cut across many different cabinet members. There is talk that a large number of these individuals have been caught with their hand in the till or have their hand in the till, and worse, that they've all colluded to suppress the real aspirations of the people. Also, I just want you to paint a little bit of a background on Mr. Oli's own relationship with New Delhi and Beijing in that context. Siddhant, are you there?
Yes, that's right. So, Rahul, as far as Mr. Oli's relationship with New Delhi is concerned, perhaps he visited China first. There is no doubt about it. In fact, he was there at the parade in Tiananmen Square. He is definitely cozying up with Beijing. And in fact, what I have been told, perhaps this is something which has not been confirmed to me by the officials, but what I have been told, that he was asking for a time to visit India from a long time. But, because of the differences and because both sides not being able to come to the on one page, perhaps his visit was not possible. And in fact, he was expected to visit India next week, but that also got postponed. So definitely his equation with New Delhi was not great, Rahul. New Delhi always looks at him with somebody who is cozying up with China. In fact, the strategic experts here, the think tankers, they all believe that he's somebody.
Siddhant, just hold your thoughts, because we're getting indications that Prime Minister Oli is likely to resign. They've already been buffeted by 3 resignations from among his cabinet. Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak, important member obviously, has quit. Agricultural Minister Ramnath Adhikari has also put in his papers. Pradeep Paudel, the Health Minister in the Oli government, has also put in. So these are weighty portfolio holders, and they've all thrown in the towel, saying that, look, we want to distance ourselves from this government that is made of kleptocrats, according to some individuals, nepotists and authoritarians. So you're seeing basically 3 ministers go. People have been accusing the government of having the blood of innocent children, youth on their hands. Many people have been taunting the government for using the kind of tactics that you're seeing, because this protest was initially peaceful and then suddenly something changed. The government thought that they'd got too close to government buildings and decided to push back the protesters, which resulted, as it always does, in skirmishes. We don't know, of course, if some of these protesters or protests had been infiltrated by other elements, sometimes viewers to justify a crackdown, sometimes to also impose curfew or emergency. So a lot of scenarios. New Delhi taking a distant view, saying that we hope that peace prevails, that both sides work out some sort of a solution via media. But that's going to be difficult given the scenes that we're seeing and the fact that the youth, Gen Z as they brand themselves, are not backing down. They have continued their protest for a second day. It's going to lead to repercussions. They're going to force the hand of the government, and there's going to be more clashes. You can already see tear gas shells being fired, mild lathi charge. And we've been also been speaking with higher-ups in the Nepalese government, Nepal minister. We've just spoken to one, and the situation is very precariously placed in the mountain kingdom, in the Himalayan kingdom, and it appears that KP Oli, the Prime Minister, might actually be contemplating stepping down. Now, this would mean further instability. Let's go straight across to Mr. Ramnath Adhikari for more on this. Mr. Adhikari, yes, what's the latest? What's happening?
आपने रिजाइन कर दिया है सर?
मैले राजीनामा दिएको छु।
अच्छा, आपने राजीनामा दिया है?
राजीनामा दिएको छु। मैले प्रधानमन्त्री कहाँ पुगेर राजीनामा दिन सकेको छैन। मैले सामाजिक सञ्जाल मार्फत राजीनामा दिएको घोषणा गरेको छु।
ओके, तो आपकी पार्टी का अभी भी सपोर्ट है सरकार को या नहीं है?
अरू सब कुरा मलाई जानकारी छैन। मैले नैतिकताका आधारमा राजीनामा दिएको छु सर। मैले यति मात्रै बोले।
अच्छा, तो क्या अब आप चाहते हैं कि प्रधानमंत्री भी राजीनामा दें, इस्तीफा दें?
थप कुरा म नगरौँ।
हाँ जी,
म थप कुरा नगरौँ।
अच्छा, और आगे आपको क्या लगता है कि ये जो सरकार है ये बचेगी नेपाल में?
धन्यवाद धन्यवाद। म संघीय लोकतान्त्रिक गणतन्त्र प्रति विश्वास गर्ने एउटा कार्यकर्ता, नेपाली काङ्ग्रेसको कार्यकर्ता भएका कारणले संघीय लोकतान्त्रिक गणतन्त्रको संस्थागत विकासका लागि लाग्छु। हालका लागि मैले राजीनामा दिएको छु।
Well, let's go straight across to Anand. Anand, you're getting some updates.
Siddhant has just spoken, and this is a CNN News 18 exclusive. Ramnath Adhikari, we just heard him. He has spoken in a mix of Nepali and Hindi, but he has said, I have given my Razinama. And this is soon after the Nepal Home Minister. So there is clear fissures within the Nepal government, and that means there is pressure on KP Sharma Oli also to resign. And this is despite the social media ban being removed. But the protests are still on. It looks like matters have reached a tipping point, a boiling point, and things have spiraled beyond KP Sharma Oli's control. And we are seeing a Bangladesh redo, Rahul, in the region. So another region, another nation within the subcontinent that now sees perhaps an overturn of the elected government or the incumbent government because of protests spiraling onto the streets and led by youth. So there are a lot of boxes which are being ticked vis-a-vis what happened in Bangladesh, although the situation is different. And within Nepal, there has been pro-monarchy protests which have happened over the last month and a half or 2 months. Nepal has been constantly in protest mode for various reasons. Here it seems like Ami Nepal, which is a non-governmental, non-profit organization which was leading these protests and which was organizing these protests. It was supposed to be a peaceful gathering. The central government had given, Nepalese government had given permission for these protests, but things spiraled out of control because the authorities did not realize that there's going to be such a huge turnout. And the social media ban perhaps just was the final nail or the tipping point for the protests to burst onto the street. Now we are given to understand there are alternative candidates like Mr. Deoba, Sherbadur Deoba or Aruba Deoba, his wife, who could perhaps be the alternative candidate, and there could be a toppling of the government, the incumbent government, the current government in Nepal. Matters coming to a head in Nepal, and there are geopolitical signs. Many experts have pointed to a clear Western influence, given perhaps the growing Chinese influence in Nepal, and also a certain level of returning to roots within Nepal. There was a sentiment that they wanted to go back to its Hindu roots, its Hindu Rashtra, and also bring back the monarchy. So multiple narratives that are flowing, and there will be those who will dip in and try and profiteer from it. And these protests, which seemingly were inorganic or perhaps organic, now could be taken on, and there would be others who would then come in and appropriate these protests towards their political gain. So these are also developments that are happening, and where, of course, there is the other dynamic that have social media and big tech firms become so strong and so influential that they can topple governments. Those questions also being raised. But social media played a huge role in Nepal beyond just communication and dissemination of information. It was also a means of livelihood. Although it's just 1 or 2 days that these apps have been banned. So should the protests spill onto the streets because of that is another logical question that's being asked, Rahul. Multiple layers, but unprecedented situation here, and things are not in the control. It's very unusual for an army to shoot at people point blank on their foreheads. 13-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds have died because of shooting by the authorities, by the cops, by the security forces. Now,
well, no doubt.
प्रदर्शन है, लोग सड़कों पे हैं। हाँ, यहाँ की सीनियर जर्नलिस्ट हैं जो कल पूरे प्रदर्शन में यहाँ पर जाबाजी से रिपोर्टिंग कर रही थी। एंजिला हमारे साथ यहाँ पर मौजूद है। आप कल के बारे में बताइए, कल की और आज की स्थिति में क्या फर्क मिल रहा है, थोड़ा चलते चलते हुए आइए।
नहीं, वो क्या है कि कल का भी स्थिति तो यही था, लेकिन इतना नहीं था जो हमने सोचा है, जो अनुमान किया था। ऐसा हालत नहीं हो सकता है। लेकिन क्या है, यहाँ के सरकार फिर दमन कर रहे हैं, दमन कोशिश कर रहे हैं। यहाँ के प्रधानमंत्री वो इस्तीफा के खिलाफ में है। तो कल तो यहाँ के गृह मंत्री रमेश लेखक ने इस्तीफा दे दिया, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री का इस्तीफा का इंतजार में अभी का जैन जी का आंदोलन है, वो इस्तीफा के लिए वो मन नहीं कर रहे। अब बिल्कुल इस्तीफा के वो इस्तीफा से गलत तरीका से चल रहे हैं, वो दमन कर रहे हैं। जब दमन करेगा तो विस्फोट।
आप कल कहाँ फंस गए थे? आप कहाँ से रिपोर्टिंग कर रहे थे कल?
मैं मेरे घर से निकल के मैं रिपोर्टिंग किया था। वो कोशिश है कि वहाँ से भी पुलिस ने फायर किया था।
देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे एंजिला, यहाँ पे आग लगा रखी है। ये कौन सा इलाका है? ये किस तरफ रूट जाता है? देखिए वहाँ भी मेरे कैमरा से जरा दिखाएंगे, आप बोलते रहिए।
ये
तस्वीरें दिखाएंगे।
ये बुढ़ा नीलकंठ एरिया है, जहाँ शेरबहादुर देवा अभी का जो कोलिशन गवर्नमेंट है, नेपाली कांग्रेस का सभापति शेरबहादुर देवा के इलाके मानते हैं ये एरिया, और अभी का परराष्ट्र मंत्री आरजू देवा का इलाका है। इसके लिए है वहाँ के घर, शेरबहादुर देवा और परराष्ट्र मंत्री के घर में भी आग लगा दिया है जैन जी ने। और आज का आंदोलन का नाराज अंदाज नहीं कर सकते हैं, लेखा जोखा नहीं है, क्या हो सकता है इसमें, क्या क्या है। अब फिर नेपाल की सरकार और नेपाल के गवर्नमेंट इसको सही तरीके से नहीं रहते हैं, एड्रेस नहीं करते हैं, तो इसके लेखा जोखा हिसाब किताब कोई
देखा है। जो लेखक थे, जो यहाँ के गृह मंत्री हैं, कल उन्होंने नैतिक जिम्मेदारी ली, कांग्रेस के बड़े लीडर है, और उन्होंने इस्तीफा दे दिया। फिर सूचना प्रसारण मंत्री को यह ऐलान करना पड़ा कि जो सोशल मीडिया पे बैन है उसे हटाया जा रहा है। कहीं ना कहीं सरकार को बैकफुट पे आना पड़ा, लेकिन बहुत देर से आया जब 20 लोगों की मौत हो गई, 18 से 20 लोगों की
नहीं, ज्यादा है। यहाँ सिर्फ काठमांडू का 20 का आकलन है, और आंकड़ा है बाहर काठमांडू के बाहर की सड़क में 20 से ज्यादा भी है। हो सकता है संख्या धीरे धीरे बढ़ रहा है। इसके लिए वो जोश में है, जो जांगर में है, वो आक्रोश में है। युवा लोग बहुत आक्रोश में थे, आज से बहुत आक्रोश में युवा लोग। आप देख सकते हैं रोड में टायर जलाकर आंदोलन को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। घर नेता के घर तोड़फोड़ कर दिया है। इसके लिए आज का आंदोलन का लेखा जोखा हिसाब किताब कोई नहीं है।
ये बताइए जेनजी, ये रिवोल्यूशन जो है, इसको क्या कोई लीडर, कोई संगठन लीड कर रहा है कि ये आम लोगों का है, आम सिटीजन का है, युवाओं का है?
इस बार के आंदोलन क्या है कि बांग्लादेश मॉडल में जा रहा है। इसमें नो लीडर है, नो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, नो एनीबॉडी। सिर्फ वो जेनजी का मीन्स वो युवा का संख्या का एक दर है, जो कि 18 तो 25 तक 28 तक वो युवा वो बोल रहे हैं कि कल मैंने भी इंटरव्यू लिया था कि आपका लीडर कौन है। वो बोल रहे हैं हम जो सड़क में है, जो रोड में है, वो सारे लीडर है, वो सारे अध्यक्ष है।
तो देखिए बिल्कुल ये यहाँ की जर्नलिस्ट हैं, यहाँ की जमीन से ये बहुत अच्छे से वाकिफ हैं, और कल किस तरह से पूरा घटनाक्रम रहा, किस तरह से लोगों की मौत हुई, और उसके बाद से कैसे लोग जो हैं वो सड़कों पे आए, प्रदर्शन किया, उसकी ये चश्मदीद हैं। आज भी हमारे साथ हैं, हम पूरे दिन हमारे साथ ये रिपोर्टिंग करेंगी।